Welcome to Dying to Know, where we open up about everything that comes with losing a loved one.
Because the only thing that's worse than death is not being able to talk about it.
We're your Bereavement Babes, Leah and Rachel, and today we're talking finances. Hi, Rachel.
Hi, Leah.
How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Doing good. Ready
Yeah.
to dive into this topic. I mean, how to plan a funeral when you're broke. I'm a 30-something millennial, so I don't know too much about finances, but hopefully helping someone with our stories today.
Yeah, I think this one's a lot more of exactly like little tips and tidbits that help us getting through a funeral without having any type of, I guess, life insurance or pre-planning or anything, because it wasn't really in the cards for us.
Yeah, exactly. So what was your story and or experience like?
I think, and like we've talked about in previous episodes, sticker shock is one of the biggest things about funerals that no one was really prepared for. So I feel like for us, it was a lot of us trying to figure out how to do everything. And I feel like a lot of the times it wasn't the best decision. I know for us, or for me at least, when we went to the funeral parlor and just hearing how much you had to do, and again, you had to get this all in 3 days.
Yeah.
I definitely jumped the gun maybe on some decision making and not asking where I increased a credit card balance and it messed up my credit score for a little bit. So it was a lot of things like that. I did say we had other great helps that came along the way, but I feel like for me it wasn't exactly knowing what to do with my finances. But lucky enough afterwards, and after all that had happened, I hadn't accumulated any type of debt. I worked with the financial gym. I don't know if you've heard of it before.
Yeah. You put me on them.
Yeah, I did, because referral codes.
I was like financial gym, but yeah, okay.
No, I worked with the financial gym, and I had already been working with them, trying to get my finances in order. Of course, you never know when a big life change is about to happen.
Yeah.
So everything happened, and I remember my financial advisor had just messaged me too, asking just how I was doing and stuff like that. And I had told him what happened, and we were able to jump on a call right away, which I appreciated so much. They were also just so kind and understanding to my experience. But he helped me, as I like to say, get financially naked.
Oh.
With
not you remembering the taglines.
I feel like it was just such a I don't know, how you said, a 30-something-year-old millennial, how to understand my finances. I did what I thought was the right decision.
Yeah.
And he really helped me break down expenses, because some of this stuff didn't need to be paid right away, like headstones and all that could be paid later in time, where we broke everything down, and then he kind of helped me figure out how to now start paying off this debt, which I thought was really helpful. So I highly recommend any type of financial advice, because you don't know what you're doing. I messed up my credit score for a little bit with this, just because I was let me just extend my balance real quick. It'll work out. So getting to sit with them afterwards, after all of this had been spent and laid out, really helped me get through some of my financial difficulties. I don't know.
Because it's immediate need. In that time, it's
it's jump decisions. Quick.
Whether you have it or not, you're scraping it together and using whatever you need to get it done. So similar situation with us too. My parents had just signed up for a policy, but it had invested. I think they did it the holiday, end of 2020. And then by June, maybe only 6 months had passed to 7 months. And I guess because it wasn't a year, I'm not really sure, but we'll go down that rabbit hole in a future episode about policies vesting so you can get money from it. But we got offered, I don't think it wasn't even $100. Don't quote me on that. So at the time, because it was still during COVID, all of us were still home, so we're not spending as much money. So I had a little bit more of a disposable income. So my mom had took care of most of the funeral costs. And then I personally had fronted the cost for the repast food and everything of that nature. But you're right, it really is a huge unexpected bill that you don't want to get.
And
but you want to throw money at it.
Because you're no, exactly, because even when we were asking all my siblings and we're all pulling our money together, how we said in the casket episode, we wanted the nicer casket for them, and you want to do the nicer send-offs and all that kind of stuff. So it was just you want the nicer, and you find ways to get it done. So I feel as siblings we all came together, or even as a family all came together and decided we're paying this. We don't care how we're paying it, but it's getting done because we want them sent off in that way.
Absolutely.
But then after 3 days are over, you're sitting there with the repercussions of everything you just spent.
No, for real.
So it was definitely helpful, because one of the questions I asked my advisor was just okay, because at the time I think I was getting like my holiday bonus, so I was like, I should put all of it to the credit cards. And he's like, no. He's like, make sure you still have some spending money for you and contribute like X amount to your credit cards right now.
Yeah.
Which, again, like I would have never done. I would have put everything and been broke and probably ran up my credit card again. So it was nice to have someone who was knowledgeable in that. And I feel like keeping that idea in back of head, like ask someone who does know, because they're going to give you the better answer.
No, I think that's good advice. And also too, I think during our time, a lot of people showed up with like bereavement cards and money. So I hadn't been, I mean, like obviously my father's death was like the first like big death in my life. So people were showing up with cards. I'm like, people are just handing you $50 or $20. And you're thinking like, well, what is this for? But then you realize like, just first with the expenses of a funeral, and people don't know if you have like any type of insurance. Yeah. And I think too, with the absence of that person, they don't know what your new financial situation will look like.
No, it's very, very
scary. So I'm like, both my parents were retired, so now it's one less check coming into a household. So I was grateful for those who showed up. Like even if you don't have someone to ask the advice, that when people do show up to comfort others, that they're willing to give a financial like offering or gift to people to really help them through their like grieving period and just helping them like with costs of living or anything that's associated with the cost of a funeral.
No, the same thing happened with us. My dad was always in our community. We always had like a little bench outside of our house, and he loved to like wave people and like knew all of our neighbors. That our neighbors like came to our door one day and they had given us a donation. And it was just like, one, it was the most touching thing ever, because you forget like the connections like you made, and it's just like, I feel like that, like the sense of community. And they even asked her like, do you need anything else? Like, would more help? And my mom, like, because like it's hard to ask people for money, so my mom didn't know how to phrase it at first, and I was just like, just say anything that like anything that can help, like will help, like in the most, like if they can't, you like no worries, but like we appreciate anything. And they ended up raising so much for us that, and again, it was just like, it's this community that we've lived in for over 10 years. Like shout out to Dean's Pond Crossing for that. But it was just like, it's just so wild how like,
was it a GoFundMe, or was it like just the community got together, knew that there was a need, or maybe they didn't even know it was
apparently
a financial
there's a community board that I didn't even know about.
Oh, really? So they had posted that he had passed.
So this one wasn't a GoFundMe.
Okay.
But yeah, it was just the I guess the lady who gave us the first original one, she's like on the board and very active in the community. And she was just like, if you want, I can reach out to more. And we were just like, honestly, we would appreciate anything. And like a few days later, they like came back with another donation. And again, it was just so helpful at the time, and it was just to show like, I don't know how, be nice to people. Because,
no, absolutely.
Like, just like the little connections of the waving as someone's walking by, like because they also gave us cards and notes just saying how like they remembered him and they know us and stuff like that. And it was just like so sweet and touching to know like he had made this little difference, and now it's like coming back to us in a positive way, especially like not having life insurance like be there to save us. So I feel like that community moment just felt so special and ended up being so like extremely helpful.
Yeah, like speaking of life insurance, when we thought about this episode, and I was like, what could I really tap into? Because I remember talking like, what am I going to be able to say about like finances? But I think specifically with like estate planning and getting ready for something like that, it made me think of Insecure, which I just started rewatching on Netflix.
I mean,
excellent show. Yes. And then the character Molly, who's so misunderstood. I'm obsessed with her. But when she had the episode when her mom had took ill, she had a stroke. She had got out the hospital, and then she had started estate planning with her mom. And then the other character in the show, Kelly, did like that type of planning and stuff with like banks. Yeah. So they had the conversation with her mom and like who gets the house and and her brother. And I remember her youngest brother was like so awkward, like, y'all want tea? I'm gonna go make tea. And then he was like, we ain't got no tea. We gonna go run to the store and get tea. And like just how uncomfortable the conversation is. And I'm like, had I had this conversation with my parent, maybe the grieving process wouldn't have been so hyper-focused on what to do. Yeah. And I even remember like on the Breakfast Club, DJ Envy was talking about when he had to bury his wife, Gia's mom, which wasn't too long ago. I think it was like during Mother's Day or something. Yeah. And they were saying like planning her own funeral. And at the time they had planned their own funeral for their kids. They were like, we just wanted to make it easier. Like we're going to be in is it the mausoleum? Yeah. So it was like, whether it rains or snows, like we want our kids to come visit us. Yes. And it was like, he was like, it's eerie to think about or strange to think about. he was just saying like how important it is to have those things and your ducks in a row.
No, 100%, because when my grandfather first passed away, like years ago, back in I think 2008, my dad's like, oh, okay, I'm gonna get like mine and mom's plot. And I was like, don't do that, that's bad luck. Like you're wishing it on yourself, and he didn't. And what was crazy is when I went to go get his plot, the spots were still like kind of there and like saved. And it like was just something that if I had let him do it when they kind of had some money, like it would have saved us some money. So it's just like, it's not something that you should think about. It's like, it truly is like planning for the future and being more prepared, because, and what we ended up doing is I got my mom and my dad's this way. We also know that they'll be next to each other. They'll be together forever. And then we also made sure, and my mom was up for this too. They have like the shared headstone too. So like everything is together, and like that will be one less burden come the future because we prepared a little better.
No, absolutely.
And we started the preparation process.
Already. But no, that's so true, because like you don't want to think about death. It's kind of like a taboo
But that's
thing.
why we're here on this podcast.
To make it a little bit more easier to digest. Because living is already ghetto. Like, you know what I mean? And you think about, we already have a limited time here. So we don't want to think about that because it's a little sad. But like doing it or experiencing that with my father, also having this platform with you has made me think like, is it too early for us to start? Or am I too young? Because, I mean, our lives are constantly changing. Like, who knows where we'll live or what properties we'll have, whatever is next for us. But it also makes me think of my mom. Like, I don't really want to have this conversation with her, but I know what we already went through with one parent, and I don't want to repeat that again. I want to give me and my siblings the space to really, like, process what has happened to us and not think about who's writing an obituary and what pictures should be selected for the program. Like, it's a lot of many details that you need focus, and you're up against deadlines.
No, and I feel like we like to hold the example in other episodes where it just as similar as a wedding. You're not going to plan your wedding 2 days before it's going to happen. Yeah. Where it's like there's nothing wrong with planning for your future, and that's what it is. You're not going to like, well, you never know with student loans. But I'm saying like you try and prepare for your student loans or your wedding or these big financial tasks so far in advance that there's nothing wrong with doing it for your funeral too.
No, I think that's really awesome. Yeah. This episode is in love and memory to our bank accounts, because by the time this episode airs, we will be paying back our student loans. Thanks for grieving with us. We'll see you on the other side.